All right. This is Sybil. All right. If you're watching this episode right now, you'll understand why we are cracking up. You should go and watch us on YouTube because
It's a good one.
Hysterical.
It's a good one.
Okay. This is Sybil, and I have a confession. So while we're prepping the show today, which was anxiety-ridden and exciting, I realized that one of the most embarrassing times I have ever cried was if you've ever used Word and they have that little paper Clippy, I think his name is. Yeah, Clippy. Yeah. He's there to help you and, guide you along. If you turn him off, he'll actually be like, "You don't need my help. Are you sure? I'm so sorry." And I literally cried once at like 3:00 in the morning when I turned him off in college.
Oh my God.
Because I was so sleep deprived.
How do you know you're sleep deprived?
I was crying in the computer lab. And some guy walks over and he's like, "It's okay. It's just a computer."
You're like, "But Clippy, you don't understand."
I cried at Clippy. I was so embarrassed.
That is so funny because we've been talking about Clippy too, man. That was like some formative computer experiences, like on the journey with Clippy. I mean, I just feel like we're so much closer now that you've shared that with me.
I know. So people don't realize, but I was a computer major, and I did not have a computer the entire time. I just used the lab.
That's crazy.
I spent many, many years and hours in the lab as the only woman sitting there.
Crying over Clippy. And they were like, "This is why there's not girls in this major."
Oh, gosh, it was, and so it was extra embarrassing to be sitting there. Yes, crying over Clippy.
I'm crying right now over this story.
All right. So now as an esthetician, I can cry in a room with other people and be like, "It's okay." One of the things I say all the time is, "It's okay. The bed knows how to deal with that energy. It's okay.
It'll absorb it all."
Yeah. But no, Clippy can't handle that situation.
All right, guys. Rest in peace.
Let's go ahead and get started. I'm Sybil Solon. I'm an esthetician and spa owner.
And hi, I'm Alex Ellis. I'm a body nerd and wellness expert, and we are business besties.
And bosses. Running your own business, it's hard.
But we are terrible employees, so we're figuring it out.
I've already figured it out. Clearly, if you're watching this episode, you can see that we have figured this out together. And we are going to teach you everything we know about what it takes to make 6 figures and beyond.
And be brutally honest about what works and what totally sucks a lot.
I'll be honest, a bunch of this totally sucks. So let's get this show on the road.
Oy, yes, it does suck. All right, so welcome back to Skinfessional. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the wild, wild west of entrepreneurship and answer the question, is it actually gambling?
And we're going to discuss the 2 types of entrepreneurs. Which one actually lasts?
Yeah. Entrepreneurship. I mean, so yes, if you are watching this, I think this is a perfect epitome of, this is entrepreneurship. You have the flexibility of a schedule, right? To do what you want, to be where you want to be when you need to be, et cetera, et cetera. And then also sometimes you find yourself, you have to post that picture on Instagram or something.
I will. I'll actually post the picture on Instagram of what's going on right now.
Yeah.
Beautiful Alex's setup at home last second.
Yeah. So in my parents' house, with my original laptop that my dad and I just, rebuilt together from eBay parts. And I feel like we've really come full circle. But if that isn't what being an entrepreneur is, I don't know. I don't know anything anymore.
It's totally true. It's totally true. And that, we literally have, if you've been following us from the beginning, this computer has had many stories told about it.
Oh my God, yeah.
The subsequent computer has had many stories told about it.
So many stories.
And our last 3 episodes, the reason why we're sitting in this room is because we've had some technical difficulties because of where Alex is sitting right now.
Yeah. Well, actually, fun story too. I mean, there must be like Mercury and Mars and Jupiter, like all in retrograde. I mean, I don't know a lot about that, but I'm sure all of them are like in transit. So our neighbor is also using our Wi-Fi or my parents' neighbor, because they're getting a new roof done and their roofers melted their fiber optic cable. And so that like really set the internet off. And so now it's just, I mean, if anything, I think really one of the most important skills or traits, because I do think you can develop it, is patience and resilience to really roll with the punches,
And
right?
adaptability.
Yeah, because if
Yeah.
you're not willing to be like, okay, I guess we're doing this now, you're never going to make it. You're still going to be sitting at your parents' house on your old original laptop, wondering what happened with your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But it's super true.
It's true. So this kind of spawned, this topic kind of spawned up, and we've hit this a few other times, but somebody recently posted, and this is the second time that this post has kind of come up, where somebody has posted something about what they feel an entrepreneur is. And
Mhm.
when I read it, I got boiling mad, just so angry. I freaked out at my boyfriend. I sent it to Alex and was like, what do you think about this? Tell me your thoughts. And the reason why is because I really feel that there is this idea that an entrepreneur is somebody who it is okay to sit around and be a failure, and that's okay, and that it's okay to sit around and gamble with your life, that it is okay to take risks. So people will be like, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a risk taker.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that that's the truth. I think as an entrepreneur, we are able to take risks, that we are more built to take risks. But if you gave an entrepreneur a sure thing, we're going to be like, yes, please.
Oh my God. I would like literally give blood for a sure thing.
Like, yes, I would prefer that. So the idea that to be like, I love risk. I love it, which is what this person said. They like, I love risk. Really loving risk, that's a gambler. That's somebody who wants to go skydive, jump off of buildings, go take their money and go to the casino.
Yeah.
I don't want to ever do that. As an entrepreneur, I want that sure thing. I will be willing to take risks, strategic risks that I'm careful about.
Yes, that is the difference, that strategic risk. And I say this too as someone who was playing that risky card and just like, oh, like it'll all work out. Like I'm going to jump out the plane and then figure out the parachute later, which I think a lot of people think that being an entrepreneur is like. I do feel like you have to have some element of fearlessness, but not in the risk-taking sense. It's more of a trust that you can figure it out no matter what happens.
Yes. Yeah. So like when you started, where you're like, the idea that that an entrepreneur is built to be like, I'm going to figure this out. I have adaptability. I have the ability and the skills to like sort this out. And if I do fail, I can pick myself back up and make lemonade.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to figure it out. It's going to be fine. I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to go hide in a corner. It's going to work out. And maybe I'll cry a little bit, but then I'm going to figure it out. It's not going to be like the end of days. Okay.
There will be crying.
Right. There's probably going to be crying, maybe, but it's going to be okay. I'm going to work it out. I'm going to have a few little pity parties and I'm going to sort it and I'll hopefully learn from that experience.
Yeah.
And if I'm very lucky, I won't do it again. But honestly, I'll probably do it 2 more times before I really figure it out.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think too, like, something I've been talking about this as well, like starting up my Facebook ads and just like wanting to get it going. And so I was running these Facebook ads for a low cost product last year. And last year it did feel more of like a gambling risk in what I was doing, of just like, oh, well, I read on the internet, if I just pour money into this funnel, that more money is going to come out the other side. And like the reason I was doing it was almost like to prove myself that I was an entrepreneur, and so the difference of like what you're talking about, the way I see it, of like being that gambler versus being strategic about it, I'm doing it again now, but it's not emotional. And I
Right.
think that's the biggest difference, right? I'm looking at the numbers. Okay, what do the numbers tell me? Okay, I see people are dropping off once they land on the website. Great, let me improve the website. Awesome, sales came through. Cool, I fixed that part. Versus like, let me just pour money here and see what happens, because that's what an entrepreneur does.
Right. That, and that's such a good point, Alex. Like the idea that as entrepreneurs that we get like giddy, we're like, oh, because I've met these people where they get giddy at it. They're like, oh, I'm doing this thing and like it could all fail or it will succeed. And you're like, so you're excited that it could fail or
Right.
succeed? Because I'm freaked out by that. Like
Right.
I know my risk to reward ratio.
Right.
Right. I know where that balance is. So one of the things that people say a lot as entrepreneurs is they're willing to take massive financial risks. And I hear this all the time. I'm willing to take massive financial risk. And listen,
I'm like, yeah, I did that.
so as entrepreneurs, the difference is we are willing to put our money on the line. And I will say that instead. We are willing to put our money on the line. The difference is that we 100% believe in our cause and what we're doing.
Yeah.
But we have numbers to back it. We have faith in what we're doing. And we have an unshakable belief in that what we're doing is right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If those things are not true, then you are just gambling. You're just like, I'm just putting money in it because I think that this is what I should do. Is a friend told me I should do it. It's just, right. This is not, that is not a belief in your cause. And I always say that the person I like to use is actually in this. I like to use Elon Musk, right? Mm-hmm. He is a man who, whether you like him or not, has unshakable faith in what he's doing. Mm-hmm. He 100% says, I have a goal. I have a mission. I know my end game. You may not understand it. You may not like where I'm going. You might not like how I'm getting there, but I know where I'm going and I believe in it 110%. Mm-hmm. Right?
So when it comes to entrepreneurs, like I just watched the Hulu documentary on WeWork.
Yes, that's such a good documentary, guys, by the way, on Netflix. So good.
It's super good. Like I love, it's like, it matches like my love of reality TV and like true crime of just like watching somebody just fuck up. It's really messed up. But anyways, that guy clearly is, I guess this is the question. He was a sociopath, right? He didn't care. Like he had a mission and he had a dream, but he didn't care at what cost or who he hurt on the way up.
On the way there.
And I think we hear in media about the unicorns who like did this big crazy thing, Elizabeth Holmes of Theranos, which is that it was supposed to be in one drop of blood. They could do 100 different blood tests and it was going to revolutionize healthcare. And she sold contracts to Walgreens. Yeah. And then it ended up that they never had a product that could do that in the first place. Mm-hmm. So like, where is the line between entrepreneur and sociopath?
Right.
Like, I mean, honestly, like, what do you think about that?
So, I mean, first of all, the entrepreneurs that seem really sexy, those stories tend to be the entrepreneurs who are the people who are a bit of a gambler, right? Mm-hmm. And they are the ones who have to step on a lot of backs on the way to get to where they're going. Mm-hmm. Right. Because and I'm going to use a term that a lot of entrepreneurs do, to win big, you've got to risk big.
Got to spend money to make money.
Right? They say it all the time. And these things are true. You do have to risk sometimes. And sometimes to get to that final bit, you have to make that final risk. But it's when you risk the entire time.
Right.
When you risk that entire time. And I do feel that there's always going to be a few people who are going to feel like they get hurt along the way. And it's because they don't see your vision. But this is life. There are always people who are going to separate from you because they don't see your vision. They don't like what you're doing and they don't believe in your cause. Mm-hmm. Right. But there are going to be times where you look at somebody who is like Bernie Madoff, right? Who really people would be like, that dude's an entrepreneur. If he was never caught, he was an entrepreneur.
Oh yeah. Like an amazing one.
Right? An amazing
So messed
entrepreneur.
up. Mm-hmm.
There are entrepreneurs out there who people are like, okay, well, they're just geniuses. Well, no, they're making money on the backs of other people.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so that line between, I think, like sociopath and entrepreneur is incredibly fine. And I think the best quote that was ever given to me on like when you know as an entrepreneur that you might be making kind of that move to
Sociopathic tendencies,
unethical choices is when you say something like the word but in the conversation to yourself. So you're like, well, I'm doing this and I don't think it's a good idea, but I'm going to do it anyways because of this reason. It's usually the reason, but. Now, if you can live with yourself, it's how many buts are you okay with? And I know for myself that any time that I've used the word but to myself, I've literally had to sit down with myself and have a conversation. Right.
Which I think too, even the fact that you're self-reflecting proves that you're not a sociopath.
Right. But understand that you can, there are whole, like there's graying lines of, sociopathic behavior.
Yeah.
So when you're thinking to yourself, to be an entrepreneur and to sometimes get bigger and better and make choices, sometimes we have to kind of disassociate from ourselves. I would say put our CEO hats on. And guys, when I say put my CEO hat on, it kind of means be the less emotional and meaner myself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not thinking with my heart as often. It's thinking with my head and making choices via numbers. Mm-hmm. And often those choices are the hardest choices I make. And those are the most entrepreneurial choices I sometimes make. Mm-hmm. And those are the choices that often require me to think about butts. And not like booties, but like the hard ethical butt choices. Almost always, though, it comes down to, I'm going to feel really crappy about this. The Sybil, who isn't the CEO, is going to feel really crappy about this. So therefore, I'm not going to wind up doing it. There's probably another way. Mm-hmm. Right?
Mm-hmm. I think too that people think that entrepreneurs they're like, can't think of exactly the word, but like idealized as like these huge risk takers because we are willing to do things that other people won't do. Mm-hmm. Like give up a stable income, give up health insurance. Mm-hmm. And so that makes us seem really risky. But like you're saying too, like there's a line, not even into sociopathic tendencies, right? But into that gambler place. Like I feel like there's levels of it, of like the healthy relationship of the entrepreneur where your productivity isn't what is defining your worth. Right. To me, like that's the ideal situation. And then there's, okay, well now I'm gambling with things and I'm just taking these wild risks that are not necessarily going to pay off. And I'm not sure, which to me is also different from saying, oh, I'm going to spend $1,000 to see what happens here. Like that's not the same thing as that's gambling. Finite. Right.
And if you've hopefully you've chosen that number based on realistic data. You're like, okay, this is a number that I have to spend. It seems like a good number. And it's the number that I am sticking to. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. Yep.
So once again, a good entrepreneur, one that isn't like what I consider a wild west entrepreneur, like going south, young man, going west or whatever. And I'm just going to go lasso up some stuff and see what happens, taking out my guns and just six shooting out in the wilderness. You're actually being like, okay, so I have a plan. I'm getting on the trail, going to go do some stuff. My goal is this. And I'm willing to accept these risks on the way because I've made a plan of action. Mm-hmm. Right. And by the way, the best entrepreneurs, if you talk to them, if you really talk to a good entrepreneur, they have 29 million backup plans. So if this goes wrong, then this is the next thing I'm doing. And then this goes wrong, this is the next thing I'm doing. This goes wrong, this is the next thing I'm doing.
Right.
We never had Wild West ones are just like, I don't know, I'm just going to see how it goes.
Oh, interesting. I know, because then you would also say, oh, well, they're all in on that one thing. They must, like have it figured out. But that brings up a good point. Also, like in this WeWork documentary, apparently this episode is about this WeWork documentary. Even in Silicon Valley, they're looking for the unicorn. right? That one idea that is just like amazing and changes everything. And
the blue ocean idea.
Yeah. And that exists, but like for the majority of us, that's not the reality. And so being strategic, like really thinking about things, like not being, I was gonna say like careless, but not being dumb about this. Cause like, well, here's the thing. I guess you could go, this post that we're talking about, you could go and be that wild, wild west entrepreneur and like, just like guns ablaze and do whatever you want, but there is always a cost, right? Maybe what suffers is like your client care suffers, or maybe your relationships suffer. Maybe it's your mental health. Like there is always some cost to going about it that way. So is it wrong? No. Are you going to want to do it forever? Probably not. And so it's just like, is it worth it to you?
Well, and there's a reason why so many entrepreneurs are sociopathic men, because they are like, no, I'm good with that. I'm fine with all those things. So I am very careful when I talk to people, because I consider myself a successful entrepreneur. And I know a lot of very successful entrepreneurs. And the ones that I've always looked up to are the ones who are like, I reached a point in my life where I was happy where I was. And we've talked about this, you and I, where we're just like, what is enough? Where do I want to be? And the entrepreneurs who are like, I just always want more and more and more and more and more. And there's a difference between, I want to continue to gain success and I want to give back and I want to find that next thing. And that just like, I am never filled. I have never fulfilled what I'm looking for.
Totally.
Right? And you can look at somebody and guys, I'm not going to name any names. You can look at the entrepreneurs out there and you can look at the people who own businesses. You can say, I know, I can think of those people. My financial advisor once said to me, he's like, well, how much money do you need to retire? Because when you're dead, how much are you going to continue to spend? Right. And so I've always just thought about that because it was really good. It was very thought provoking to me. He's like, how much you need in this lifetime, and then for your legacy.
I think too, like the drive of what is propelling you forward, because for me, for a long time, it was like, well, I just need to hit this income goal, and focusing solely on that left a lot of butts behind. That were like, I was really unhappy. And when I shifted it to, because we're in the service industry, all of us. And when I decided to make it about the people I help and how I help them, and to make that be my focus, so many other things fell into place energetically and strategically, and just like opportunities and this and that and the other, like that wouldn't have happened otherwise. So I think the focus too. And at the end of the day, if you're just in this for the money, like we're not going to be the next Uber. Right. It's just, it's not going to happen.
Well, and that's not really what entrepreneurship is.
No.
Right. So the idea, in my opinion, the idea of entrepreneurship is the idea that you are creating something, that you are creating something and bringing something of value to people in a way that no one else is doing it like you do it. Right? So we've talked about this many times. Alex, there's a ton of people out there who are doing what Alex kind of does, right? But nobody does it like Alex does.
Nope.
Right? There's a ton of people who are estheticians. There are none of them who are simple Solon esthetician. Same with you guys out there listening. There's nobody who is uniquely you as an entrepreneur. So maybe none of us are Zuckerbergs, but if you are out there and you're a Zuckerberg, that's wonderful. May you create something magical and blue ocean and different and exciting, and, create a better world doing it. Right?
Although, Facebook, and I was thinking about SPF. I mean, there's so many things. But no, 100% to all of that.
But, if we create better things and we keep, I try to think of things that have created new technology and stuff that haven't had a lot of backlash. And there are things out there that have, we just don't think about them as often. We're just like, oh, I don't really think about that one as often as, what could be doing that. I mean, the iPhone has revolutionized the world, right?
And
Revolutionized the
destroyed
world.
my life at the same time.
Revolutionized the world, but you're choosing what to do with it. That's
Right.
all your choice.
I don't want personal choice. I want someone to tell me what
That's
to
all
do.
personal choice. It's all personal choice. So one of the other things about entrepreneurship that I think is really important to kind of address is the idea of making an impact, right, with your entrepreneurship. And one of the things that I think the people, when they're thinking about their entrepreneurship, is, especially when you're first starting, is we just think that entrepreneurship is very much like us focused, right? We're very much like us focused. But then as you become more aware of your entrepreneurship and maybe you get kind of mid-level, you do start to kind of like have this broader vision and scope. Alex, do you remember when you started kind of like looking outwards and thinking to yourself as an entrepreneur, but as like a broader scope entrepreneur, when you started like actually looking at the fact that you had clients and that you actually helped your clients?
Yeah. Well, and also that I was helping people. For me, it was like broader, like online,
Right.
and like when people I have no connection to, I've never met, didn't know me when I was a kid, are
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, like that helped so much. And I needed to tell you, like, that was just like, whoa, what?
Right.
It was really cool. Yeah.
Right. And then we have things like mentorship, like right here, guys, we're sitting out here, we're talking to you, giving you our knowledge. And I think of that as part of entrepreneurship. That is like another level of a good entrepreneur shares their knowledge. Any good entrepreneur will talk about the fact that they hit a level where they want to help other people.
Yeah. Well, friend of the pod, Kimberly Bennett, Kim always says entrepreneurship is a team sport.
Yeah,
and it's
absolutely
so true, because you are always so in your business and so in your marketing and your copy and your website, and this and that and the other, that you sometimes need a fresh pair of eyes to just be like, hey, what do you think about this? I mean, and mentorship, I think also, I have fallen into putting that person up on a pedestal and giving them all my power. But I think that a real true mentorship is one that goes both ways, where, I can ask you for advice, but I can also give you advice on things. And the relationship is mutually beneficial.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, like just yesterday, back to the sales page, you guys, I asked Sybil, I made the changes Sybil said, and then we sold 2 more spots. And that's freaking amazing and awesome.
Yes.
Because it's entrepreneurship is a team sport, and there's no need to be doing it by yourself all the time, because it's just lonely. It's freaking lonely.
And you look at your stuff so long, like,
God,
right? We look at, so for example, like here, Alex is like looking at her sales page, and she's looked at her sales page, and she's like, I've jiggled the copy a million times, whatever. She has me looking at it. I'm like, I don't think it's the copy, girl. I think your colors are just like not doing the job.
Yeah.
Right.
I didn't know that that's what needed to happen. Again, this is why it's a team sport. You got to have someone else's eyes, because then every time I looked at it, I was like, whoa, this looks good now. But I didn't see it before, because it was just here.
And it seems so, because we get so enmeshed in like what we're used to, like, it's got to be the copy. It's got to be that. I mean, that's what I am the weakest at. It's got to be that, right? It's got to be the words I'm saying. Right.
Always.
It was something so small, but like I looked at the page and I'm just like, and I just wanted to bounce off. And I'm like, well, why did I just want to bounce off this page? Because it was boring. Because it was boring.
Whatever. It's not boring anymore. It's not boring anymore.
So, and I love that idea of it. Once again, we love her. I love the idea that it's a team sport. Right. Because we just work alone so much. And I think that also bleeds in this idea of like this wild, wild west mentality, right? Is that we're going off alone and we're doing on our own and we're so by ourselves. But if you do have people around you, you also have people to kind of check you, to kind of be like, hey, you're kind of being an asshole. You're getting too big for your britches, or, maybe you need to rethink these ideas that you have, because they don't seem like who you should be or who you are. I like to talk to people all the time, straight up. There will be a time in your business where you are rocking and rolling in your business and you're like, I am a mother effing God, right? If you're doing good, you're like, I'm a mother effing God. And that is literally when you need somebody to come to you and be like, you're not a mother effing God.
I feel like too that the universe is really good at reminding us of that. Case in point.
But you do. You need those people who are just like around
Yeah.
you, who keep you. You think about the people who have had the hardest times in their lives. You look at like movie stars or like emperors or whatever. They don't have the people who are like, excuse me, you
You're
stop.
a trash human right now. So
Just
could
stop
you
it.
not? Thanks.
Right. You got to
Thanks.
surround yourself by not yes men, but like the people who are like true, the truth tellers.
I wonder as well. I mean, because you bring up celebrities, love celebrities. It seems to me that it's more, and I'm making a huge generalization here, but it's more likely for men to hire staff more quickly, and also to like ask for funding more
Yeah, they do. I
quickly.
mean, this is statistically true that they
Yeah.
hire faster and they get money faster as well. Women can ask for money, but we often just don't get it.
Yeah. So what is the deal for that? Because like I look at some of these other companies, I'm like, what? They have funding? Like why? Why didn't I ask for this?
It's still a boys club. I mean, it still is a boys club. So interestingly enough, so I have shares in Norwegian Cruise Line. So this may be super boring for
Oh,
anybody out there, but so I actually read the 196 page board meeting notes. Okay, because I think it's fascinating. This is the things that I
wow.
get off on. All right. And one of the things that they come up at is they're like, we're into diversity. Look at how many women that we hire. Like we've got like 63% women staff. And I'm like, okay, but what are the numbers on that staff? So you get a little deeper. And of course they have 63% women staff. They have a lot of people who do cleaning and cooking
Right.
and maintenance of, rooms and whatnot. Guess how many are
In the
higher up?
C-suite.
Yeah,
Zero.
guess how many people of who are women who are higher up, what they consider 3-star striped, which means that they're like, running the ship, or management.
Like way less.
15%.
Yeah.
15%.
Wow.
85% of those are still men.
Yeah. Oh,
They are
but
super proud. They are super proud of their diversity.
we're so diverse. It's not so. I mean, that's the thing. All of these companies, big companies, will give like lip service of like, look how diverse we are. It's like, yeah, but who's sitting around the boardroom because y'all look like old white men.
Right. Right. And they're diverse. They're very diverse in their like colored and ethnicity diversity because they're also a cruise line. And guess who's running their ships? Guess who's like
The
doing all the
international
labor on their
people.
ships? Right. So like I was just like, oh, let me write you a letter about how I feel about this section. I'm on technically I have stock and I get to write about I'm on technically on the board. I get to write you a letter
Oh
about that.
yeah. Oh
So that's what I do.
wow. That's so exciting. That's how you get involved.
There you
Uh
go.
yeah.
But so it's important to remember that, especially in both, our industry, especially, we are mostly still run by women.
Mm-hmm.
So we're one of the few. Alex, you still actually have a fairly high percentage of women in your industry.
Yes. Well, you know what? It's kind of interesting. I don't know the stats exactly, but I feel like in the yoga space, there's a lot of women, but the people, if you're like higher
Mm-hmm.
popularity, are men. And they love them. There's something about a man in yoga shorts, apparently, that people go wild for.
Well, we have a
Um,
whole episode on how women listen to men.
yeah. And then in like the physical therapy space, I feel like the voices, it feels more mixed now, but even like 3-4 years ago, like the loudest voices of physical therapy were men.
Yeah.
So I know, or I don't know, but it would appear to me now that it's more diverse, at least in that capacity. But yeah, it's just so annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Sorry.
because of that, we do have, the louder voices do tend to be male. They do tend to be white. And, the best way to kind of negate that as entrepreneurs, I mean, the nice thing about being an entrepreneur is we are we are solo, we're out there, and we speak as loud as we want to.
Mm-hmm.
We are not part of a corporation.
Mm-mm.
you know so it's a good thing to have that we're out there speaking.
Yeah, no, it's definitely like I wouldn't change I think of this sometimes, and I think this also is like the journey of the entrepreneur, where you're like, everything is awesome, and then the next day you're like, is Costco hiring right now? Like, this
There are
is
definitely days that I
terrible.
want to be hired by Starbucks.
Oh my God. Ugh. Okay. But see, I always have that in my back pocket because I'm like, I know I could get hired at Starbucks. I don't know, but like, I know I could get hired at Starbucks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't, because for me, and I think too, like for us entrepreneurs, having to get a job where I have to be somewhere at some time for somebody else, and I don't get to be my creative self, and I don't get to build new things and decide that I don't want to do this part anymore and just like get rid of that. Like it would be the slow death of my soul.
We've
And that
also even said we're horrible employees.
horrible,
We're
terrible,
horrible
terrible,
employees. I've been
terrible.
employed. I've been
Oh,
an
me
employee
too.
before. We're
Me too.
horrible. Don't
I mean,
hire me. I'm terrible. I'm just
I'm
going
like,
to do what I want.
did you really just tell me how to do my job? Who the fuck do you think you are?
Exactly.
So it's like knowing though that like that you could get hired somewhere else because you are you are a marketing expert, you are branding, you are private chef, you are customer support, like you do
Right.
everything. You're like, yeah, I know I could get hired, but God, I never would want to. Like I would literally rather be I would almost rather be where I am in debt right now than to have like a totally fine job, because I would be miserable. I would be.
mean, these are the true words of an
Yes, no truer
entrepreneur.
words.
So
have
these are
ever
the true
been
words of an
spoken.
entrepreneur. So I would love, I would love to hear from everyone out there about what it is like for you. Maybe you have a job that you've had in the past. I know that I can think of two. I've actually been, okay, so I'm going to straight true talk here. I've been fired from 2 jobs.
What? Oh my
Straight up
gosh.
fired from 2 jobs.
Like just clear your desk out, don't come back.
Oh, I like to let you think it was a desk. I can't work in offices. Like I am not
I did
capable.
once. I thought it was cute.
It was there was one was a retail job.
They just said, don't come back.
So they called me in, and I was working at JCPenney's.
Ooh.
And they called me in, and they're just like, yeah, so you're still part of the 30-day trial period, and we're just going to pay you in cash, and you can just never come back. And I'm like, wait. I was like, but my sales are great. Like, by the way, I was kicking ass and taking names at sales. I was like, but my sales are amazing. Like, I don't understand. And they're just like, yeah. So the staff just doesn't like you. We've had a lot of complaints. And I'm like, really? I don't understand. Like, the people here think I'm great. Like, I've been here for like 20 days, and I already have like a group of people who come by and like say hi to me. And that one lady gives me coffee. And yeah, no, staff did not like me. Apparently, I was condescending and too smart.
You're too smart.
Sorry,
you're overqualified.
I didn't stay in my area for one thing. Like I would answer people's questions from other areas because
but you can't do that. You have to stay in your box. That's being an entrepreneur. Not an entrepreneur. That's being an employee.
Yeah. And then my other job that I was fired from was so I grew up in a restaurant. I was a waitress for years and years. I've been a waitress since I was like 13 years old, and I got fired from a waitressing gig because I kept telling the floor manager that he was doing his job wrong, and he was annoying me, and he was messing up my tips because he was. Because he couldn't do his freaking job. He was messing up my tips, and he could not manage the table order at all.
No.
So I got fired in a week, and I was like, I just really can't work for people.
No, I think let's see, my very first job was in a chocolate shop, and I didn't get fired per se. They just said, hey, things are slowing down and we'll call you. And they never called me. I still have that apron. I wear it all the time with pride because it's a damn good apron. And I'm like, this was what I got. I mean, literally I was 16. I've had that apron for almost 15 years.
Beautiful. They were just like, thank God that girl's gone.
Yeah, I guess, whatever. That chocolate was bomb. I was probably eating too much of it. And then every other job I've had since then, I quit because I kept thinking like, maybe this one will be better. Maybe this one will be better. And the only job that I don't want to quit, even though sometimes I do want to quit, is working for myself because I want to be able to do what I want to do when I want to do it and work with the people who I want to work with and be able to say like, hey, I don't want to work with you anymore. I don't like you. Goodbye. And you can't do that as an employee. So yeah, please share your stories.
Would love to hear them. Would love to hear all of your stories about what jobs you were fired from, what jobs you're like, no, I'm actually an amazing employee. Because, I mean, maybe you are. Maybe we're wrong. And you can be an entrepreneur and an amazing employee. I mean, I guess it's technically possible. I mean, I haven't met anybody yet, but I'd love to know.
Yeah, I think that you would be bouncing around from job to job, and then eventually you're just like, burn it all down, and then you become your own person. But yeah, so hit us up, find us on social. The show is I was going to say Your Skin Fitness Expert, but that's Sybil.
It's at Skinfessional.
The show is at Skinfessional. Sybil is at Your Skin Fitness Expert. You can find me at Holla for Mala, or you can leave us a beautiful voice message in our box.
Yes, you can. The number for that is 818-473-5277. So guys, this has been fun. Until next week.
Keep your secrets to yourself.
Unless you're telling us.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye.
Let me hold my martini.
Just
Goodbye.
like this. We're holding them up again. Okay, there we go.
Good evening. Have a great day.
All right. Hope you find us on YouTube. Bye. Subscribe, like, do all the things.